George Kennedy, Matignon class of '62, and I was a catcher on Don's baseball team in 1962. So we had 3 years together on the baseball team.
Can we tune it up?
Is that on?
Well, that was quite a production by Joe Sullivan at the cemetery. For most of us, this was our opportunity to mourn Johnny's loss. In 1969, most of us were not around. We were in the military, pursuing careers, pursuing our education. So today was our day of mourning.
You're looking for a flag.
At this park, we're here to celebrate
I don't want
and
to
pay
disrupt
tribute
this.
to Don.
You're looking for a flag.
This endeavor has been an incredible experience, given the response from all of Don's family, friends, and classmates. After 45 years, we are fortunate to be at this park today, which was originally rededicated to Don in 1980 through the results of Mayor Gene Broom and Andy Pouliot, the families here. Andy was an alderman and was instrumental in having this park. I'm just going to introduce a few of the speakers and some of the people, the family. I'm going to start with Bill and Monica Curtin. We have John Hickey, Curtin Hickey, and their son Dan, Sean Curtin, Colleen Curtin, Will and Sam Curtin, Jim and Judy Curtin. Jim is the son of Barney Curtin, who was a famous Seminole baseball coach.
George, speak closer to the mic.
Closer to the mic. Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And we have Kevin and Eileen Curtin. The city of Somerville has walked hand in hand with us on this endeavor, and it was not an easy task. I expect that perhaps the Mayor Joseph Curtin will be here, and when he does, he'll have an opportunity to speak. I don't know if John Conley is here. But John Conley, we had to get a special waiver for John to attend this event. He's a St. Clement's graduate. So the waiver's only good until 2 o'clock, John. Kijana Valentine is the local alderman, and Kijana's been coming here with her children and always wondered what the story was with Don Curtin. Now she knows. Is Al Franzen here? The city of Somerville? I'm sorry. How about Stan Cody, Public Works? He's not here. Walter Whitney, Superintendent of Buildings and Grounds, did an incredible job of getting the cemetery ready for us. Jay Weaver, Director of Veteran Services. Is Jay here? Jay did an incredible job to put this program together for us. We also want to thank Dave Devaney with Oak Grove Memorials in Medford. Dave had a daughter that graduated from Matignon, and he did an especially excellent job in working with us and putting the stone together. We probably redid the prose about 20 times, thanks to Ed Lonigan, who wasn't satisfied with anything. Construction and landscaping, Larry Galinsky and Davis Loftus helped prepare for the stone. We have some landscaping there. It really is very attractive. Music. Our trumpeter, bugler, is Peter Bamashi. Peter is brought here by Al Sherman with the class of '62. They lived down the Cape. Peter is also a good friend of the Curtin family, especially Bill, and he grew up in this neighborhood. He came here of his own volition, and there's no charge. Right, Peter? the American Legion Honor Guard, Post 19, did a terrific job at the cemetery. We have with us also the headmaster at Matignon, Tim Welch. Tim and Fran led us the director of development. They've been incredible in helping us put this together and offering the services at Matignon. They provide the building, they provide the bus that we'll hear from Tim later on. Now, the committee that worked on this, I've got to tell you that Ed Lonergan, about 7 years ago, mentioned this to me. And it's sort of been on the back burner. But when we had our 50th, 51st reunion, that was combined, Bill Maloney had a presentation for Donnie Curtin and reminded us of Donnie's service. And that ignited the spark to put this thing together. Bill Maloney from Cambridge, Bill Maloney, whose father played baseball with Jake Curtin years ago. And Bill has been incredible. He took care of all the communications, all the emails, because I was incapable of doing so. And Bill teamed up with Leanne Dixon Cronin and Wendy Matheson Watson. We have a list of about 60 people that attended the graduation. We had their emails, but there was about another 80 people that we couldn't get in touch with. And through their efforts, we contacted most of those people who were extremely pleased to be notified of this event and provided financial support. Some of them are probably here today. And Jeanette Condon Perkins. Jeanette lives in Yarmouth, and she has been my accountant. She's checked on me on a regular basis. Jeanette was our liaison with Matignon. She put together the transportation for today and the catered gathering later on. She did all of this while she was on a golf tour and a trip to China. She's incredible. I don't know how she did it. And last but not least is Ed Lonergan. Like I said, Ed is the fellow, this is Ed's brainchild. He's had this whole thing mapped out for 8 years. He tried to pretend that I was helping him put it together, but it's all his idea. The stone he selected, and we spent hours and hours on it. But the prose is incredible. But Ed not only collected the checks using his attorney's fund, like I said, he worked with the town on all the permits, etc. So I'm going to tell you, Ed, it's incredible. Actually, Ed's the one that should be here, but we needed a pretty face. Ed, as is Don Curtin, a son of Somerville. They love Somerville, their recreation activities, they work in the departments, and they have tremendous loyalty and drive just for the city of Somerville. I'm actually getting sick and tired of hearing about Somerville. I talk to Ed on a daily basis, and it's driving me crazy. I better bring some Cambridge stuff into this. We want to thank Maureen Grant Forbes for class of 61. It's her brother, Joseph Xavier Grant, Captain Joseph Xavier Grant, class of 1957, who was the first Matignon graduate to fall in Vietnam. And so we have a notation to that effect on the stone. I just want to make a few remarks regarding Donald Curtin. My experience with him was on the baseball field. And I've got to tell you, he was a gentleman at all times. He was a very accomplished baseball pitcher and just an all-around good guy. And that's reflected today as we have all these people coming here to pay him tribute. So there are some people that couldn't be here today that knew Johnny even prior to Matignon. I just mentioned a couple. Franny Camerano Johns is out in Chicago, class of 61. And she remembers riding her tricycle up and down the street with Johnny. And she has fond memories of that. Peter Legere, his cousin. Peter unfortunately couldn't be here today. But Peter has fond memories of staying at the grandmother's house, sleeping over for the weekend, and just having a great time. And of course, we finally got Ed Lonergan. Ed knew Don from the recreation department, and they used to have basketball competitions. So Ed told me how he first met Donnie over at Dilboy Field, and he said Donnie was a great ball handler, but Ed thought he was a better shooter. That's in dispute. It's in dispute. We also have a number of Don's classmates from Immaculate Conception Grammar School, which is unbelievable. We have interest that goes way back. I just wanted Ed to know that even though he says the gymnasium and the ball field in Somerville, the legal address for Matignon is in Cambridge. And Immaculate Conception Grammar School is in Cambridge. So there's a lot of Cambridge connections here. If I could just, I hope this isn't clear, but my memory of Donnie was not only of a terrific athlete, but the guy had a real great sense of humor. And it wasn't beyond him to tease people. Now, in 1962, when Don was the pitcher, that was the last season that the Matignon baseball team competed in the Catholic Conference, which is the equivalent of Division I. And we had a 7-7 record. Now you may say, hey, that's only breaking even. But I got to tell you, prior to 1962, in the Catholic Conference, even with Graham, Cannon, and all those guys, they never won more than 3 games. Donnie led us to 7 victories. There was a no short effort on behalf of the underclassmen in that class. Our senior team, we only had 4, 1962 team, only had 4 seniors, Don, myself, Jimmy Galvin, who's a Naval Academy graduate, and Buddy Robertel. But we were really good because we had some great sophomores and juniors that brought us through. Of course, after Donnie graduated, they dropped down to Class B, the Wimps. They told me to bring a few props so that I wouldn't get distracted. I just want to bring to your attention a picture here that we at the high school of the 1962 baseball team. And you note up in the upper right-hand corner, the coach named Donovan. When we started baseball, spring baseball, we had to work out in the gymnasium because the outside conditions weren't working. That was a teacher in Boston, assistant baseball coach. He was an outward man, he was probably about 325 pounds. He had baseball he would get in the gymnasium, get on the piano, and play the wood and tell overture. Those were some of the ones that came from Lone Ranger. We'd be racing around the gymnasium, and Johnny Curtin would come flying by us because he was just getting on varsity basketball. He was in terrific shape. And the rest of us that just woke from the winter slumber, it was a challenge. John would fly by us and get us on the other item that comes to mind is John. Baseball practice was kind of boring. So I think Johnny put this guy up. There was a guy named Bob who used to walk down Endicott Street every day. He looked like a Mad Magazine character. He was short, stocky. I guess you're on a deep night going down there, but he'd walk down the street like this. And when we'd see him, somebody would say, hey, there's Bob. Well, Donnie would, at the top of his lungs, yell to Bob. He'd say, "Auga!" And this guy would would stop. He wouldn't look at us. Big smile on his face, and he'd return the Yayuga. I mean, it may sound silly, but it was a real great baseball. And then my final story is, I've got my property. I've got a card here of Tony Canigliaro. My senior year, Tony Canigliaro played for St. Mary's of Rome. At the beginning of the season, we were actually in competition for first place. I think we were both 4 wins and 2 losses. We played behind the high school at Matignon. And Tony was up. There must have been a scout from every professional team around at the field. We had 2 strikes on Tony. If you remember the baseball field, the left field there was some bleachers. Then behind that there was a green space that actually went up. Then there was a 6-foot fence. And then there was a 3-story house. So we had 2 strikes on Tony. I called for low outside curve, the perfect pitch. Johnny threw the perfect pitch. The hit the plate, dropped off. Tony Canigliaro hit it over the stands, over the fence, over the 3-decker house. So we both looked at each other and laughed because we were saying the fellow who ended up hitting almost 100 home runs for the Red Sox before he was injured. And just finally, Johnny was very sensitive. And when we'd meet, he would always say to me, he says, here's my well-nourished catcher. Now, that was very sensitive. He didn't call me fatso, he didn't call me tubby. He said, well-nourished. I appreciated that. Because there were some other people on the team that weren't as sensitive. Now, Donnie could see me today. You're probably asking yourself, he was 180, 190 in high school. I don't know how much he weighs now. I'll tell you this. Any well-nourished man who will tell you his weight will tell you anything. So don't ask. So if Johnny was here today, I guess he would say, my very well-nourished catcher. At this point in time, I don't know if anybody else has any stories that they would like to mention about Johnny.
George, could I just say a couple of quick words?
Sure.
In 1980, when I decided that I
want to come up here, Andy?
Well, I think I could talk loud enough. My wife tells me my mouth's big enough. I had the great good fortune of growing up 8 houses away from the Curtin family.
Also to the mic.
I had the great good fortune of growing up 8 houses away from the Curtin family. And I can tell you, without exception, they were one of the very finest families that the city of Somerville has ever had the good fortune to reside within its corporate limits. Mr. Curtin, Jake as he was affectionately known, followed Donnie, Billy, Donnie, Ricky, my contemporary, and their athletic exploits all the time. I can remember seeing him in the stands at Gilboy Field in the 50s when I was playing Little League Baseball, and Ricky was playing for Logan Post and I was playing for Broadway Chevrolet all the time. And Mrs. Curtin up in the porch, I can see them just as clear as a bell right now. And I used to see Donnie and Ricky almost every summer day or evening down at Gilboy growing up. I want to tell you that dedicating this field for Johnny was important, but not just for Johnny, for Mr. and Mrs. Curtin, for Billy, and regrettably, I never thought that it would happen for Johnny and Billy's younger brother, Ricky, who was tragically killed by a drunk driver some years ago. No family should have to endure so much tragedy. But Bill has been strong, and he has a wonderful family. And that's what I mean when I tell you that they are such a credit. They were and are such a credit to the city of Somerville and to Cambridge, even though most of the athletes from Matignon came from Somerville. But when you go by this field, when I go by this field, I not only remember, but I feel the spirit of Mr. and Mrs. Curtin, Johnny and Ricky all the time. And I will until the day I die.
Of course, at the center of this whole event is Matignon High School. Just like the rest of us, it's probably hit a few bumps in the road over the last 50, 60 years, but they're headed in the right direction. We're making tremendous progress, and we have the headmaster who'd like to say a few words.
Thank you, George. I work closely with Ed Lonergan. I can't speak whether or not he's never satisfied, but I can guarantee you he's satisfied today because there's nothing not to be satisfied about with this event and this day. I'm just going to try to get this a little closer. It's a privilege to represent the students and families and staff of Matignon High School here today and to say a few words of honor for Corporal Curtin. In some ways, though, we're not only here to honor Corporal Curtin. In some ways, we cannot honor him by our own words and actions when his actions and character have already done so far beyond anything we could ever say. After being asked to speak here, I was thinking of some thoughts to contribute, and I was reminded of the famous language of the Gettysburg Address, delivered in a similar circumstance to today's event. We cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or to detract. We cannot add to the valor of Corporal Curtin. That's impossible. But we can remember. And that is the true beauty of today. All of you coming together after 45 years to remember. I believe that in many ways we're here today to celebrate and honor the spirit, the dedication, and the character of those of you here and the others who cannot be with us. All of you formed a bond with each other, and certainly with Corporal Curtin, during your time at Matignon High School. And while the years have passed and the strength of your bond has vacillated over time, this memorial dedicates the primacy and ultimate strength of this bond. A bond that was forged in the halls, the classrooms, the fields, and the stage at 1 Matignon Road. And it is a bond which has inspired this wonderful event and tribute. These bonds are still being formed today at Matignon High School. Our students have the same hopes, dreams, fears, and apprehensions that each of you and that Corporal Curtin had. And they are being instilled with the same values, Catholic and moral, and strength of character and responsibility that has resulted in your being here today. Each of you would be so very proud of our students. I cannot tell you how proud we are of them. Earlier this summer, I had the unfortunate responsibility of attending the funeral of a recent Matignon graduate. Although in a very different manner than Corporal Curtin's, he passed away tragically as well. And while his funeral was extremely emotional, I was very proud to see over 250 of his classmates, friends, and teammates in attendance. The spirit of Matignon still lives. It lives in our corridors, it lived in that church this summer, and it certainly lived in this park this afternoon. And just as our words can do little to add or detract from the valor of Corporal Curtin, my words can do little to add to the significance of what you have put together here today. But I would like to tell you that what you have done has inspired me and inspired all of us at Matignon High School. And it serves as an example to our students about the power and love inherent in the Matignon family. And further, what you have done, and certainly what Corporal Curtin has done in sacrificing his life for others, fulfills the mandate set down by Cardinal Cushing in 1947 upon the dedication of Matignon High School, when he challenged, "May Matignon High School ever send forth from its doors graduates, both young men and young women, so burning to imitate Father Matignon's many virtues and cultivate his great learning, and to be so filled with his ideals of service that no cry of human need, no syllable of spiritual striving will ever fall unheeded on their ears. Thus, and only thus, will this be a fitting memorial for Father Matignon." Today, you have not only created a fitting memorial for Father Matignon and Cardinal Cushing and validated their hopes for all of us, but you have shown your true character in creating an unprecedented memorial to a great Matignon and American hero. God bless each of you, and please pray for us and help us continue to fulfill the mission of Matignon High School as well as you have done here today. Thank you.
And now we'll hear from Alderman John Conley and Alderwoman Katrina Ballantyne. So as John comes forward, the St. Clements Invader, I want to present him with a cup, a Matignon 1962 cup. Compliments of Elaine De Silva McCullough, 1962. If he accepts this cup, he has to leave 5 minutes after his speech.
Oh, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You know, some things never change. 45 years later, and Matignon guys giving Clement guys crap. And Donnie was the same type of individual. I'm here as an alderman at large here in Somerville, and I will certainly like to officially welcome you all here to this commemoration of Don, and on behalf of His Honor the Mayor, who is doing his best to get here, but as the dad of 4 boys under 12 years old, he is where he should be, on the playing fields here in the city, making sure the kids are doing what they do. I think Donnie would have wanted nothing less. So Katrina Ballantyne, who's the alderwoman here from Ward 7, is also here with me representing the city. And we've already heard from former colleague of the Board of Aldermen, Andy Puglia. And I certainly want to mention a great friend of Donnie's, former Ward Alderman, Walter Perro, who's here. And I especially want to welcome all of the members of the United States Armed Forces here. You know, Colonel Jim Marks is here, as well as other members of the Armed Forces here. Gentlemen, thank you all for your service, and I especially want to express our concerns and our sympathies to Billy and all the members of the Curtin family. But also, I want to spell out that the city of Somerville appreciates what the Matignon family has done. 45 years later, you have come back to honor a true son of Somerville who dedicated his life in service to the city, state, and country. We are ever grateful for all of that. And as a kid myself, being a few years younger, Donnie was one of those wonderful mentors that a lot of us had in the parks and the playgrounds, because, as I'm fond of saying, growing up here in Somerville, you get to know the best and the worst of the good and the bad. Well, thankfully, I had the good fortune of seeing the best of Donnie as a coach in the parks and the recreation. He was one of those guys who would give you inspiration when you're sitting on the sidelines hoping to get in the game. I'd get a little, "Hey, Clement, kid, you want to play?" And to me, that would make not just the day, that would make the month. Donnie Curtin picked me to play right field, where I might see 2 chances all afternoon in the ball game. But boy, I get picked, and boy, wasn't that a thrill to have. That was the content of his character. People going by for years to come will be able to Google who Donnie Curtin was, and they'll know who he was. But they will not know the content of his character, and they will not know for the cor bellatoris, for you Cambridge people. That's Latin for heart of a warrior. It is that heart that I think we all remember. It was the good-natured kidding, the barbs, the jokes, the fun, the frivolity, the way he lived his life, and inspired a lot of us, particularly the kids in the parks and the playgrounds, because as you remember back then, the streets were filled with the offspring of the greatest generation who came back from World War II, settled into their lives, had a lot of us, and as the proud son of a World War II veteran, both my mother and dad served in the Army and the Navy. I am so pleased to be here to help remember what I simply have termed the cor bellatoris. And again, for you Cambridge folks, that's the heart of a warrior. That is what's going to be commemorated here today. And finally, it is the 2 words that I think will typify what Donnie has meant for all of us who knew him as a competitor, and that is semper certaatis, always compete. Sister Niceta, who many of us had at St. Clements and at Matignon, will forever be proud. Thank you, one and all. I'm very pleased to welcome to the podium my colleague, Alderwoman Tatiana Ballantyne, who represents Ward 7, where this wonderful commemoration will take place and be in everybody's hearts forever and a day. Tatiana.
Good morning. Thanks. I'm truly honored to be here this morning. I am the alderman here. I've lived in the neighborhood for 21 years. I live over on Russell Road. But I'm also a mom of two daughters. My oldest being 17, a senior at the high school. My younger being 6, who just started first grade. And for the last 17 years, we have lived and enjoyed this park tremendously. And some of the fondest memories, especially as a first-time parent, is when your child can walk. And so my oldest started at 10 months, but she loved to watch the baseball games here. And so one of her favorite things to do was to run the bases, and my husband and I are cheering her on. And we would lie on the grass and stare up at the clouds to see what kind of shapes and stories we could make of them. Many times my daughters would ask me, who are these people, whose names are Hodgkins, Curtin, and which is sort of interesting as probably 2 months ago I was at the park and my 6-year-old was asking me the same question, and I said to her, I really don't know who they are, but they're definitely people who have participated in and committed to our community. And then the next day I got an email from Ed, and then I learned who Donald Curtin was, and he was part of this community. I feel part of this community, but you all here have been amazing to keep his memory alive, remind us that in any town and city, but especially in Somerville, there's lots of pieces, lots of people that make that community. So I'm truly honored to be here at the rededication, and I thank you all for making sure and ensuring to us that you've kept Donald's memory alive. Thank you.
And last but not least, we're going to hear from older brother William Curtin. On behalf of Don's family, I want to express my sincere gratitude to everyone who is here today, and to all those who have contributed to make this day possible. Especially I'd like to thank Ed Lonergan and his committee for their hard work in putting this all together, and I ask for a round of applause. It is indeed a tribute to your character and sense of patriotism that even after the passing of 45 years, you still gather to remember and honor the sacrifice made by Don and Captain Joseph Grant in the service of their country. I've been thinking about the events today. I was reminded of a poem that I learned in high school. And yes, even at Somerville High, we read poetry. This poem, if I can find it, was written in 1915 by a Lieutenant Colonel John McRae. And I feel it has as much meaning today as it did back then. The name of the poem is In Flanders Field. In Flanders Field, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks still bravely singing. Flies scarcely heard among the guns and roll. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived,
felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Field. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you, from falling hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Field. Today, by your actions, I'm sure that Dawn and Joe are resting in peace. God bless them, and God bless America.
At this point, I'd like to take the last few minutes of reflection while we're here at the park, and in order to prepare for the sounding of taps. And everybody's welcome to come back to the gathering, catered gathering at Matignon High School afterwards. Hope everybody can make it.